This month, the Whānau Ora Commissioning Agency lost their contracts, as you'll be aware, amidst claims of nepotism, political intrigue, racism, colonialism, etc., etc. To 4 new agencies, 2 in the North Island and 2 in the South. And the suggestion also was made by those who do not. Also, we had Rebecca Rakawa Tate on this program. You remember a couple of weeks ago, John Tamahiri has also said publicly. The suggestion also is that hundreds, if not thousands, of Maori jobs and lives are going to be put at risk as a consequence of these changes. Now, one of the North Island iwi's, Ngāti Toa, is got taken over as the commissioning agency. They are one of 2 in the North Island. Ngāi Tahu is one of 2 in the South Island. Te Puni Tokeri say, Te Puni Kokeri, who are in charge of retendering, say that they hope to achieve a greater focus on data-driven outcomes. Thank God, about bloody time in my view, and more frontline services as a consequence of this. Which leads us to our next guest. And that is the Chief Executive of Ngāti Toa, the iwi who have gained the ability to be the commissioning agency for Whānau Ora going forward. And Helmut Modlik joins me now, I hope. Helmut, are you there?
Kia ora, I am indeed. Kia ora,
oh, thank you very much. You heard my introduction. Listen, the reason that Te Puni Kokeri got rid of it in the end and have given it to you and others is essentially, as they said in their press release, we don't know that it was succeeding. We got no data to see if those hundreds of millions of dollars have made any difference at all. And we actually want more frontline services delivering to, well, presumably under stress or dysfunctional Maori whānau in general. Do you agree with that assessment by Te Puni Kokeri?
What I do think is that in the social policy domain generally, we know bugger all about what we get for our money, whether it's in health, housing, education, period, right? We operate like most countries, a pretty laissez-faire approach to these things. We create public bureaucracies that shovel out money to create services across that spectrum, and we do so on a reasonably rough and ready intuition that most of it will do some good. And as long as we don't get fired or kicked out of office, then we bundle along. I'm overstating slightly for emphasis.
You are, because I mean we do have assessments in health and particularly in police and in corrections and in education.
Yeah,
we can measure outcomes, Helmut, but we've never been able to measure outcomes for Whānau Ora.
We don't measure outcomes. We measure outputs and activity.
No, we measure outcomes. We know how many people. No. Let me explain. In education, for example, we've got an NCA level system that measures outcomes. Did you achieve? Did you not? You know, we're now going to be introducing that. Too late, and a fair point, Helmut. We're now going to be introducing it into primary system with 2 yearly testing and things like that. I'm not going to disagree with you, but I am saying that there is data in those areas to come to reasonable conclusions as to whether or not programs are failing or not. In this particular case, Te Puni Kokeri say, we don't know, which is why we retendered, because we want to know. Do you think that's a legitimate criticism?
Well, I do agree with that.
I asked.
Yeah, you do. I do agree absolutely that there is a general as well as a specific, in this case, need for us to be far clearer about our intervention logic, about our theory of change, about our return on social investment. I 100% agree with all of that.
Well, it's just that. Can you explain? I've given the official view of what Whānau Ora was. It was, I think Tariana Turia gave me that definition fairly quickly. It's a holistic approach, obviously, and it's designed to uplift not just the individual Maori individual who might be in trouble, but the entire whānau, because their argument was they usually come from a whānau that's in trouble as well. How are we going to measure how the money that's going to be invested into Whānau Ora is making a difference or not?
Yeah, look, and that is the right question to ask. And I was simply making the observation before that's actually the right question for all of our social policy investment, all of it.
Okay.
But coming back to the Whānau Ora segment of that, The short version is that it makes sense to me that we would baseline where the community that we're serving are at in respect of key indicators of the outcomes that are manifest in their lives at a certain point. And that we then are very clear and intentional that if we're now looking to do something different in support of those individuals and their families in moving to a place of enhanced well-being, well, what are we proposing to do? And what is the logic behind that intervention? And how are you proposing to do it, etc. And then what are the measures, both direct and proxies, that will enable you over time to understand whether or not progress has been made or a success has been achieved. That is the journey that explicitly Ngāti Toa signalled to Te Puni Kōkiri when they came to the market to say, look, we actually are looking for a new commissioning approach. What I've just briefly outlined to you is basically what Ngāti Toa said to them, that will be our approach, and they liked it.
No, that's good, and congratulations on winning the bid, and convincing that you are a better alternative to what existed. I'm interested though when you talk about enhanced well-being, Helmut.
Yep.
For me, enhanced well-being is a series of measurables, I guess, like, have you got a job? Are you off welfare? Is the health of you and your family better? Are they going to the doctor less? Are they taking some care of themselves? Have they improved their educational outcomes? They've got now qualifications that they can take into the marketplace. Have you stayed out of prison, given that the entire family has been in prison for perhaps the last 3 or 4 generations? Those sorts of measurables, you know what I mean? Is that what you're thinking as well?
100% agree. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The trick isn't so much the identification and the measuring/reporting of measures like that. That's not the hard bit. The hard bit is identifying, developing, and then implementing, we'll call it interventions, that give effect to those sorts of changes in people's lives. That's the real trick.
Right? I agree. Do you know? Well, you've bid for as the commissioning agency now. I'll just explain to listeners, Helmut. You're not doing it yourself, are you? You're actually now going to find those providers who are going to be doing the doing, who are going to be working with those families and trying to achieve those outcomes. But does that mean that you, i.e. Ngāti Toa, have to have a template by which to give to those providers to say, this is what we want you to achieve? Is it quite a
so
it's
a little bit more. It's a little bit more iterative than that. So the truth of the matter is that in any specific instance, whether an individual or a whānau in question, nobody knows categorically the answer to the question, how to best support that person/whānau to get from where they're at to where they're. Nobody knows the answer to that. It's too complex, a multifactorial problem. But what we can do, both from experience, from the literature, and from our own fertile imaginations, is construct options for interventions and mixes of interventions, which of course we will monitor and measure over time in terms of their efficacy, and progressively get better and better at what's in our toolkit of dealing with the range of challenges that people have in their lives. And so what we will be doing is iteratively working with the provider community in the identification of interventions that have an evidence base, have a track record, those who similarly have got experience and capability in delivering those kinds of interventions, and then augmenting that progressively as we go, as we learn, as we extract, as I say, from the wider literature, etc. How do you interact with a family who are struggling intergenerationally in a number of ways? And so that's the journey. But it'll be an intentional learning, accountable, review, report, learn, change journey that we will just progressively move forward on. And that's the only way, in fact, frankly, you can do it.
Can I ask the question here? As I said before, the Whānau Ora Commissioning Agency pretty much looked after all of the North Island in terms of a geographic area and its providers of delivering Whānau Ora. There are meant to be 2 of you. There's you, and who's the other one that's looking after the North Island?
National Hauora Coalition. So they're from Kirikiriroa, Hamilton North, and we're from there south. down to Port
Right. So you're going to be doing what, Cambridge South, are you?
I don't know what the hard northern boundary is, but it's basically from the Hamilton region down, all the rest of the south of, the below that through to Wellington.